Most people spend their entire lives believing that working harder is the safest path to wealth. They wake up early, stay late, accept more responsibility, and sacrifice their time with the hope that one day their effort will finally be rewarded. Yet millions of hardworking people remain financially trapped year after year. This isn't because they lack discipline, it's because they are playing the wrong game. Labor creates income, but power creates wealth. The marketplace has never rewarded effort alone. It rewards the ability to influence decisions, control resources, and position yourself where value naturally flows. Look closely at the people who build extraordinary wealth. They are not always the smartest or the hardest workers. More often, they are the people who control outcomes instead of simply contributing to them. A business owner earns from the system, not every individual task. An investor profits from capital instead of hours. A creator with influence reaches millions through one message. In every case, wealth follows control before it follows effort. The more decisions you influence, the more opportunities begin moving toward you. This is why so many people feel stuck. They have been taught to become productive employees, but rarely taught how to become valuable decision makers. They learn how to follow systems instead of building them, how to complete tasks instead of owning results. As long as someone else controls the opportunities, promotions, customers, or capital, your financial future remains tied to decisions you do not make. That is not freedom, it is dependence disguised as security. Real power is not about dominating other people. It is about increasing your ability to shape outcomes. Every new skill that makes people rely on you, every relationship built on trust, every reputation earned through consistent value expands your influence. Over time, influence becomes economic power because people naturally direct opportunities toward those they trust to solve important problems. Wealth is simply one of the rewards that follows. Think about your own life. If you stopped working today, how much of your income would continue tomorrow? If the answer is very little, then your effort is still being exchanged instead of multiplied. Financial freedom begins the moment you stop asking, "How can I work harder?" and start asking, "How can I gain more control over the value I create?" That single question shifts your thinking from labor to leverage, from dependence to ownership. History consistently rewards those who build influence before income. Power attracts capital because capital seeks capable hands. Opportunities seek trusted people. Markets reward those who solve meaningful problems at scale. When you understand this, your priorities begin to change. Instead of chasing the next paycheck, you start building authority, credibility, and ownership, the assets that continue producing value long after today's work is finished. The uncomfortable truth is that effort alone will always have limits, but influence can expand without them. The goal is not to become the busiest person in the room. It is to become the person whose decisions create movement, whose ideas attract resources, and whose position allows wealth to flow naturally. Because in the end, money rarely follows the person who works the hardest. It follows the person who holds the greatest power to create value for others. For most people, money is earned 1 hour at a time. They work, they get paid, and the cycle repeats. It feels secure because the relationship is simple. More hours produce more income. But hidden inside that model is a painful truth. The moment you stop working, the income stops too. Time is the one resource you can never expand, yet millions of people build their entire financial future on selling it. That is why so many hard-working individuals become exhausted long before they become wealthy. The wealthiest people play by a different set of rules. Instead of asking, "How can I earn more today?" they ask, "How can today's work continue creating value tomorrow?" That question leads to leverage. Leverage is not about avoiding work. It is about making your work produce results long after the effort has ended. A business can serve customers while you sleep. An investment grows without asking for another hour of your time. Digital products, intellectual property, and scalable systems continue generating value even when your attention is somewhere else. The goal is to build assets that work as hard as you do. This is the difference between linear income and exponential wealth. Linear income grows only when you increase your effort. Exponential wealth grows because your effort creates something that keeps multiplying. Every successful entrepreneur, investor, or creator eventually reaches the same realization. Freedom does not come from working faster. It comes from owning something that continues working without you. Ask yourself a difficult question. If you took a month away from work, what would still produce income? For most people, the answer is very little. That isn't a judgment. It is simply a sign that their financial life still depends entirely on their presence. Real leverage begins when your value is no longer tied to every hour you personally contribute. That shift transforms work from a daily obligation into a long-term investment. Ownership is the foundation of leverage. When you own equity, systems, content, or investments, you gain the ability to benefit from growth beyond your individual capacity. Each asset becomes another engine, producing value in the background. Over time, these engines begin working together, reducing your dependence on active labor and increasing your financial resilience. The biggest mistake is believing leverage is only for the wealthy. In reality, every meaningful asset starts small. One skill becomes expertise. One idea becomes a business. One investment becomes a portfolio. One audience becomes influence. Wealth is rarely built through a single breakthrough. It is built by repeatedly creating assets that continue producing value while you move on to the next opportunity. The marketplace does not reward the person who stays busy forever. It rewards the person who learns how to multiply effort through ownership and intelligent systems. The moment you stop measuring success by hours worked and start measuring it by value created without your constant presence, your financial future begins to change. Because the fastest path to wealth is not working more than everyone else. It is building things that keep working long after you stop. One of the biggest differences between people who build wealth and those who remain financially stuck has very little to do with intelligence or opportunity. It begins with the way they think. Most people spend their lives in survival mode. They focus on paying the next bill, avoiding risk, protecting what they already have, and making decisions based on fear of loss. Survival feels responsible, but over time, it quietly becomes a prison. When every decision is designed to avoid failure, very few decisions are capable of creating extraordinary success. Wealth is built through expansion, not survival. People who create lasting financial freedom constantly ask larger questions. Instead of wondering how to save a little more money, they ask how to create more value. Instead of protecting a single source of income, they build multiple sources. Instead of competing for limited opportunities, they search for bigger markets where opportunity is still growing. Their attention is always directed toward possibility rather than limitation. This difference shapes every financial decision. A survival mindset sees every expense as a threat. An expansion mindset sees the right investment as a tool for future growth. A survival mindset avoids uncertainty whenever possible. An expansion mindset accepts calculated uncertainty because it understands that every meaningful opportunity exists beyond complete comfort. Growth has always required stepping into environments where the outcome is not guaranteed. Psychologists often describe this as the difference between scarcity thinking and abundance thinking. Scarcity narrows your focus until all you can see are immediate problems. Abundance expands your perspective, allowing you to recognize opportunities that others overlook. Neither mindset changes reality overnight, but it dramatically changes the decisions you make every day. And over time, decisions determine destiny far more than circumstances. Expansion is not about reckless optimism or taking unnecessary risks. It is about refusing to let fear become the architect of your future. Every new skill you develop expands your earning potential. Every meaningful relationship expands your network. Every business system expands your impact. Every investment expands your financial reach. Wealth grows because expansion creates more ways for value to flow back to you. Look at the people who consistently move ahead in life. They rarely stay inside the boundaries that once made them successful. They enter unfamiliar industries, learn emerging technologies, build new partnerships, and adapt long before change becomes unavoidable. They understand that comfort preserves the present, but expansion creates the future. The world rewards those who continue growing, while others remain attached to yesterday's success. If your financial life feels stuck, the problem may not be your effort, it may be the size of your thinking. Bigger results rarely come from repeating the same decisions with greater intensity. They come from increasing the scale of your vision, your capabilities, and the value you bring to the marketplace. Because in the end, wealth rarely belongs to those who spend their lives protecting what they have. It belongs to those who continually expand who they are, what they build, and the opportunities they are willing to pursue. Most people don't lose opportunities because they lack intelligence. They lose them because they wait too long. They spend weeks comparing options, searching for certainty, and preparing for every possible outcome. By the time they finally decide, the opportunity has already moved on. In business, investing, and life, hesitation often carries a higher cost than making an imperfect decision. The world rewards those who move while others are still thinking. Successful people understand that clarity rarely comes before action. It comes because of action. Every decision creates feedback, and every piece of feedback improves the next decision. Waiting for perfect certainty feels responsible, but it often becomes a sophisticated form of procrastination. The longer you delay, the more experience you postpone, and experience is the only teacher that consistently improves judgment. This is why speed is such a powerful advantage. Speed does not mean acting emotionally or recklessly. It means recognizing the moment when additional thinking no longer creates additional value. Once you have enough information to make a rational decision, continuing to wait usually produces diminishing returns. Meanwhile, competitors are already learning from real-world results while you are still imagining possibilities. Every delayed decision carries an invisible cost. If you postpone building a business, you lose months of learning. If you delay investing, you sacrifice years of compound growth. If you hesitate to develop a valuable skill, someone else becomes more capable while you remain exactly where you are. These costs never appear on a receipt, yet they quietly shape your financial future. The price of inaction is often far greater than the price of making a mistake. Highly successful people develop what can be called a bias toward execution. They trust their ability to adapt more than their ability to predict. Instead of trying to eliminate every risk, they reduce uncertainty by moving forward, observing the outcome, and adjusting quickly. Their confidence comes from knowing they can solve problems as they appear, not from believing they can foresee every challenge in advance. This approach creates a powerful cycle. Faster decisions produce faster feedback. Faster feedback creates better judgment. Better judgment leads to stronger decisions, which generate even more opportunities. Over time, this cycle becomes a competitive advantage that others struggle to match because they remain trapped, waiting for conditions that never become perfect. The truth is that opportunities have an expiration date. Markets change, technology evolves, and windows of opportunity close without warning. The people who consistently move ahead are not those who always make perfect choices. They are the ones who make thoughtful decisions quickly, accept that mistakes are part of progress, and refine their strategy through action instead of endless analysis. In the end, wealth rarely belongs to the person who knows the most. It belongs to the person who acts while knowledge still has value. Every decisive step builds momentum. Every lesson sharpens judgment, and every opportunity captured creates the confidence to seize the next one. Because in a world that never stops moving, speed is not simply an advantage, it is the price of staying ahead. Many people believe that if they become good enough, success will eventually find them. It is a comforting idea, but the real world rarely works that way. You can have exceptional skills, valuable ideas, and an incredible work ethic, yet if nobody knows you exist, your value remains invisible. The marketplace cannot reward what it cannot see. Opportunity begins with competence, but it accelerates through visibility. This is one of the biggest reasons talented people remain overlooked, while others with fewer skills seem to move ahead. The difference is not always ability, it is exposure. Every investor, employer, client, or business partner makes decisions based on what they know and trust. If your work stays hidden, they never have the chance to recognize its value. Visibility is not about seeking attention for its own sake. It is about making your value discoverable. We now live in an economy where attention is one of the world's most valuable resources. Every business competes for it. Every creator depends on it. Every entrepreneur benefits from it. But attention alone is not enough. The goal is not to go viral for a day. The goal is to become consistently credible. Every valuable idea you share, every promise you keep, and every problem you solve publicly strengthens something far more powerful than temporary attention. It builds trust. Trust compounds in much the same way that money does. A single recommendation leads to a new relationship. One satisfied client introduces another. One piece of valuable content continues attracting opportunities months or even years after it was created. At first, the results may seem small, but consistency transforms visibility into reputation, and reputation becomes an asset that works even when you are not present. The mistake many people make is believing they must wait until they are perfect before becoming visible. In reality, credibility is built through continuous contribution, not flawless performance. The people who eventually become authorities are often the ones who were willing to share what they knew while continuing to learn. They improved in public instead of hiding in private. Over time, the market rewarded that consistency with trust. Visibility also creates leverage. When people recognize your expertise before meeting you, conversations become easier, opportunities arrive faster, and relationships develop more naturally. Instead of constantly proving your value from the beginning, your reputation begins introducing you before you ever speak. That is one of the most powerful advantages you can build because trust shortens the distance between opportunity and action. Of course, visibility without substance never lasts. Empty promises may attract attention, but only genuine value earns lasting respect. This is why visibility should always be built on competence, integrity, and consistency. When those three qualities work together, your name becomes associated with reliability, and reliability attracts opportunities that advertising alone never could. In the end, the world cannot reward potential it never sees. Your knowledge creates value, but your visibility allows that value to reach the people who need it most. Build real expertise, share it consistently, and let trust compound over time. Because the greatest opportunities rarely belong to the most talented person, they belong to the person whose value is impossible to ignore. Most people understand leverage in theory, yet very few build their lives around it. They rely on a single source of income, a single set of skills, and a single way of creating value. That approach may provide stability, but it rarely creates extraordinary wealth. Financial breakthroughs happen when different forms of leverage begin working together. The goal is no longer to work harder than everyone else. It is to make every action produce results far beyond the effort invested. The first form of leverage is knowledge. Every valuable skill you acquire improves the quality of your decisions. Better decisions lead to better investments, stronger businesses, and greater opportunities. Knowledge is unique because no one can take it away from you, and every new lesson increases the value of the ones you already possess. It becomes the foundation upon which every other form of leverage is built. The second is people. No meaningful business, movement, or organization is built alone. The ability to attract talented individuals, earn their trust, and align them toward a shared vision multiplies what a single person could ever accomplish. Strong relationships don't just save time, they expand capability. The right partnership can accelerate years of progress that would be impossible through individual effort alone. The third is capital. Money is far more than something to spend. It is a tool that can acquire assets, fund opportunities, and generate additional returns. Every dollar invested wisely becomes another worker contributing to your future. The more efficiently capital is allocated, the less dependent you become on earning every dollar through personal labor. The fourth is attention. In today's economy, attention determines influence, and influence attracts opportunity. People invest in individuals they recognize, buy from those they trust, and collaborate with those whose value is visible. A respected reputation can open doors that money alone cannot. Attention, when earned through consistent value, becomes an asset that keeps creating opportunities long after the original work is complete. The real advantage appears when these four forms of leverage begin reinforcing one another. Knowledge helps you create valuable ideas. Visibility brings attention to those ideas. Attention attracts talented people and strategic relationships. Together, those relationships build systems that generate capital. Capital then allows you to invest in larger opportunities, creating even more knowledge, influence, and growth. What began as individual effort becomes a self-reinforcing cycle of expansion. This is why some people seem to accelerate, while others remain stuck despite working just as hard. They are no longer relying on one engine to move forward. They have built multiple engines that amplify one another. Every success creates the conditions for the next one, and progress begins compounding instead of restarting each day. In the end, wealth is rarely the result of one brilliant decision or one exceptional talent. It is the product of combining the right forms of leverage until they become a system that works continuously on your behalf. Master these four levers, and your effort will no longer grow in a straight line. It will grow exponentially, turning time, knowledge, relationships, and capital into a machine that keeps creating opportunities long after the work itself is done. The moment you begin improving your life, something unexpected often happens. Not everyone celebrates your progress. Some people question your decisions. Others criticize your ambition or quietly hope you return to the version of yourself that made them feel comfortable. Many people mistake this resistance as a sign they are moving in the wrong direction. In reality, it is often evidence that they are finally moving in a direction that matters. Every meaningful level of success changes your position. As your income grows, your confidence increases, or your influence expands, the way people respond to you inevitably changes. This isn't because success makes you different overnight. It is because growth disrupts expectations. The version of you that begins creating new opportunities no longer fits the role others unconsciously assign to you. That tension often appears as criticism, doubt, or resistance. Psychologists describe this as status threat. People naturally compare themselves to those around them. When someone close begins advancing, it can unintentionally challenge their own sense of progress. Instead of asking how they can improve, some choose to question the person who is moving ahead. This reaction is usually more about protecting their own comfort than evaluating your decisions. Understanding this helps you stop taking every criticism personally. Of course, not all criticism should be ignored. Constructive feedback can expose blind spots and sharpen your judgment. The key is learning to separate guidance from fear. Helpful criticism improves your strategy. Fear-based criticism encourages you to stay small, because staying small feels familiar to everyone involved. If every important decision in your life is approved by everyone around you, chances are you are not taking risks large enough to create extraordinary results. History follows the same pattern. Nearly every entrepreneur, innovator, investor, or creator who changed an industry faced skepticism long before receiving recognition. New ideas almost always appear unreasonable before they become obvious. People judge based on what they have seen before, while opportunity often rewards those willing to build what has never existed. The willingness to continue despite uncertainty becomes a competitive advantage that most people never develop. There is another reason resistance matters. It tests your commitment. It is easy to pursue a goal when everyone agrees with it. The real question is whether you will continue when approval disappears. Long-term success belongs to people whose decisions are guided by principles rather than popularity. They listen carefully, learn continuously, but refuse to let public opinion replace personal conviction. The more valuable your work becomes, the more visible it becomes. And visibility naturally attracts both support and criticism. That is simply the price of influence. Trying to avoid criticism entirely often means avoiding the very actions that create growth. You cannot build authority while remaining invisible, and you cannot become exceptional while trying to satisfy every expectation around you. In the end, resistance is not always an obstacle standing in your way. Very often, it is confirmation that you are leaving the ordinary behind. The people who build extraordinary wealth are not those who never face opposition. They are the ones who continue moving with clarity, even when approval is uncertain. Because growth changes your position, and every higher position demands the courage to keep climbing while others are still deciding whether the mountain is worth it. At the end of the day, financial success is rarely decided by who works the hardest, who wakes up the earliest, or even who possesses the greatest talent. More often, it is decided by positioning. Two people can have the same skills, invest the same effort, and work equally hard, yet produce completely different results, simply because one places themselves where opportunity is expanding, while the other remains where opportunity is disappearing. The game you choose to play often matters more than how well you play it. This is the mistake that keeps countless people trapped for years. They focus entirely on improving themselves but rarely ask whether they are improving in the right environment. They become more efficient inside industries that are shrinking, compete in markets where margins continue falling, or dedicate years to systems that no longer reward exceptional effort. Hard work cannot fully compensate for poor positioning. Even extraordinary ability struggles when it is applied in the wrong place. Successful people think differently. Before asking how to compete, they ask where the greatest opportunities are moving. They pay attention to changing technologies, emerging markets, demographic shifts, and new consumer behavior. Instead of waiting for opportunities to become obvious, they position themselves early, while uncertainty is still keeping most competitors away. They understand that timing favors those who prepare before everyone else recognizes the value. Positioning is also personal. It is the reputation you build, the problems you choose to solve, and the people who associate your name with value. Every skill you develop, every relationship you strengthen, and every decision you make gradually shapes how the marketplace sees you. Over time, your position becomes more powerful than individual effort because opportunities begin finding you instead of requiring you to chase them. The strongest careers, businesses, and investments all benefit from this invisible advantage. Think about the principles we have explored throughout this journey. Power gives you influence over outcomes. Leverage multiplies your effort. Expansion keeps you growing instead of surviving. Decisive action captures opportunities before they disappear. Visibility allows your value to be recognized. Multiple forms of leverage create exponential results. Resistance proves you are moving beyond the ordinary. None of these ideas stand alone. Together, they create a position where wealth becomes the natural consequence of the way you think and act. This is why financial destiny is rarely an accident. It is designed through thousands of intentional decisions made long before success becomes visible. Every choice either moves you closer to environments that reward your strengths or keeps you attached to situations that limit your potential. Small shifts in direction today often produce enormous differences years from now because the power of compounding applies not only to money but also to decisions. The people who build lasting wealth do not spend their lives chasing every opportunity. They patiently position themselves so that the right opportunities are drawn toward them. They understand that influence attracts capital, ownership attracts freedom, and preparation attracts timing. Instead of asking for a shortcut to success, they build a foundation that makes success increasingly likely with every passing year. In the end, wealth is not simply the reward for effort. It is the reward for playing the right game, in the right place, with the right strategy, long enough for every smart decision to compound. Change your position, and your opportunities change. Change your opportunities, and your future changes with them. Because the greatest financial advantage is not working harder than everyone else. It is standing where the future is already moving, before the crowd finally notices.